I'd like to thank Seequent for allowing us to reuse this material from the 2020 Lyceum event for the SEG 2020. Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you're located in the world. In today's presentation, Rod and I will take you on a full tensor gravity gradiometry journey and show you how FTG data, when interpreted and integrated within Seequent ecosystem, can uplift your exploration project. So tighten your seatbelt and enjoy the flight on board HMS Bell Geospace. So what's the value proposition of AirFTG for exploration? We all know that gravity and magnetic data are cost-effective methods for frontier exploration and regional evaluation. What we'll show you today is how high-resolution FTG data, combined with other datasets, can de-risk play and prospect evaluation when the right workflow is applied. So before we show you some data, Roy, could you remind us what is FTG and what we measure exactly?
Thanks, God. We use accelerometers to measure the rate of change in the gravity field, which work using the same principle as those in mobile phones, except ours are military grade and extremely precise, measuring the difference to the 11th decimal place. These are mounted on the plates, as you can see in the diagram, at opposing angles, and these plates are located inside the GGI instruments, which are pressure, temperature, and humidity controlled. They're oriented in an umbrella configuration to measure the full 3D gravity field. On this slide, you can see a map of our largest project to date, the Pan-Malaysia Multi-Client Survey, extending across peninsular Malaysia and over to Sabah and Sarawak, 376,000 square kilometers in size, and covering the majority of the Malaysian acreage both offshore and onshore. It is currently 80% complete, and we will be finishing the northern peninsular Malaysian area before the end of the year. The case studies that I'll be showcasing later in this presentation will be from this dataset, and at 180,000 line kilometers, it is the largest library of FTG data anywhere in the world.
So this is a large volume of complex data to process, interpret, and deliver to a client in a timely manner. And of course, it has to be a product that they can understand and integrate in order to add value to the exploration project and ultimately contribute to the decision-making process. In the next few slides, we'll show you how we successfully achieve this by using efficient workflow, using Bell know-how on one side and Seequent solution on the other. So large volume of data, fast delivery to client. During acquisition, we can turn over an interim product in 24 hours. We can release interpreted data in 4 weeks after survey completion. So we need efficient and automatized workflows, producing consistent and robust interpretation. Tensor data can be complex to decipher and interpret. It is important that we deliver digestible geological information to our clients if we want to be part of the full exploration value chain. Ease of flow is especially important for multi-client projects with multiple surveys with similar specification. FGG data are inherently information-rich, and each component can be interpreted separately. However, it's not always easy to look at 6 maps jointly. So we can try to simplify workflows and at the same time keep some key information. The first of these is TZZ, which is the vertical gradient and equates to the first vertical derivative normally computed from gravity. However, here it is the measure entity. It retains high frequency signal, as we can see here, which is normally lost during processing of gravity data. The impact value is high accurate depiction of the field as it relates to geology. We see clearly tracking of low density sediment source basin infill on either side of a higher density fault block. The sediment are here in blue, the fault block is in red. These are located on the flank of shallowing basement to the south here. The next piece of information is the total horizontal curvature, or THC, which is retrieved by combining the horizontal component. The maximum curvature is shown in red, and the maps identify curve anomalous features associated with the basin and fault block geology, corresponding here with the basin and ridge on TZZ. The final element is the total horizontal gradient generated by combining TXZ and TYZ. Here, The maximum peak values shown correlate with edges on TZZ and THC and gravity anomalies and are used to map contact lineament. Working with the three representation of the field often involve working with them individually to map contact lineaments, fold axes, basin. However, it is also possible to work with a combined representation from these to build fast-track displays of subsurface geology. So we do this by color blending the three primary tensor elements as a single map representation, which you see here on the left. Color blending is an exciting development for geophysics as it enables a clear and concise means of visualizing multi-component datasets in a single display. Spectral decomposition in the seismic world combines different spectral content from 3D volumes using color blending to track geology. For FTG, we color blend the primary element. We colorize TZZ with shade of red, THC with shade of greens here, and THG with shade of blue. The mix of colors produced is reflective of the FTG response from the subsurface geology. Yellows and white colored anomalies indicate the presence of high-density full block ridges, as we can see here, whereas green cyan anomalies point to presence of basin here and here. Anomalies colored blue are thin locating contact lineament, as we can see here on the edges. Magenta colors point to high density change along fault zone. The impact on this display is clear. We quickly map the primary target structure in the survey area and greatly simplify the interpreter job and importantly connect geology to geophysics. We can see this correlation more easily if we make the gravity anomaly field semi-transparent to expose the signal tensor data, as we can see here on the map on the left. The sharpened expression on the basin and fault blocks is clear. However, we also note the detail from the tensor data that defines the longer wavelength gravity anomaly in the southeast sector here. This slide acts as a summary of sorts in what is provided as the FTG final product. The left-hand image captures the full tensor in its detailed expression of clear geological signal. Its offering adds a sense of summarizing what it is we see for this example of the tensor data in terms of mapping shallow basement, then a series of basins on its northwest edge. We can push this further and generate pseudo-geological maps. Using scripts in Oasis Montage, we can exploit all the information content in the tensor curvature. On the far right, we derive a map of lineaments of contact. These represent significant density contrasts, so it can be fault lithological contact. We can also establish a structural map which highlights positive curvature or antiform in orange here and synform in green. Finally, these can be combined to deliver a quick play map and bridge the gap between the potential field expert and the geologist. I now pass over to Roy, who will show you how this has been applied to a Malaysian multi-client data.
Our first case study is an example from the northern Malay Basin in offshore peninsular Malaysia. Here we are comparing the FTG response to the seismic horizon seen here on the lower left-hand side. The deeper basinal areas match one-to-one in both the seismic and the FTG, allowing us not only to confirm their presence here, but to map their extent outside of the coverage area. Our next example is from the southern part of the offshore peninsular Malaysian area in the Penyu Basin. Here we can see the structural geology is mapped well using the FTG data, with both the extensional faults and the regional transfer faults clearly visible. When we look at a 2D seismic line in this area, seen here on the left, we can see some low relief inversion structures. These have been drilled but not successfully, and it is thought that they are more prospective towards the basin margins where charge is greater. When we compare the conventional satellite gravity response, seen here as a green line, to the FTG seen as a brown line, we can see that there's a much higher resolution in the FTG than the satellite gravity. This next example is from a channelized sand and compares the FTG response on the left to the area of seismic amplitude on the right. As we can see, there is good correlation with the sand channel clearly mappable as a negative anomaly using the FTG in plain view. When we overlay the two images, we can extend the sand channel past the area where the seismic coverage exists. If a company wants to acquire more seismic in the area, they will know exactly where to place it. Here we have an example from the Luconia province in offshore Sarawak. On the left, you can see a simplified diagram of the geology of this area. Here, porous, high-relief carbonates are surrounded by clastic sediments and manifest themselves as blue negative anomalies. Negative because their density is lower than that of the surrounding clastic sediments. Non-porous, tight carbonates manifest in this dataset as positives due to their having higher density than the surrounding sediments. This allows us to not only map out the extents of the carbonates, but also to confirm which are more likely to contain hydrocarbon reserves. South of here we come to the Tatao area. On the left we can see a sample of 2D seismic showing a cross-section of the half-grabens present in the area. These half-grabens have a low-relief side and a high-relief side, along with their associated basinal areas infilled with clastic sediments. When we compare this to the FTG image, we can see a one-to-one match. The red positive values in the FTG accurately track along the ridges of the half-grabens, and the blue negative values are present in the areas where we have clastic infilled basins. We can also see a noticeably steeper gradient where we have high relief and a shallower gradient where we have lower relief. Looking at the FTI image, we can add in more structural details gained from the other components of the tensor, and using this image we can derive a lineament map for use for the structural interpretation and fault mapping. Adding back in the FTI image, we can enhance the interpretation and then derive a synform and antiform map from the curvature. If we want to do further analysis, we can also do 2D modeling to accurately forward model the geology in the area to derive a match with the observed data. This gives us insights into the depth and composition of the geology.
We believe that the value proposition from FTG is immense for exploration when combined with an efficient workflow. Fundamentally, FTG offers clarity for assisting with de-risking projects, particularly for license evaluation. It adds value to seismic coverage, both with existing 2D data by facilitating mapping of structures from line to line and with planning of new seismic acquisition, and all with cost efficiency by working within budget in optimal time. Ultimately, FTG primary's role is as a seismic planning tool from initial screening of a basin's prospectivity to detailed play modeling exercises ahead of 3D seismic planning. Our multi-client data in Malaysia are supporting Petronas 2020 licensing round. So I'd like to finish by saying that what I would like to show at the next Lyceum maybe is a cloud-based collaborative space where we can internally collaborate at Bell, but also work and share with external parties. We could deliver data to a client in one ecosystem, which could be central, where they maybe can track progress of the acquisition even, integrate their own data on the fly, including seismic. And by doing so, considerably speed up and de-risk the exploration project, saving time and money.